All right, folks, it's January 2024. It's a new year. People are making resolutions. One of my resolutions is to reorganize my prepper pantry. And I'm going to briefly walk you through the current status, talk about some of the things that are pluses and minuses that I have from the experience and the things I look to do in the upcoming weeks with it. So this is the Urban Sentinel. Let's get into it. Now, as you see here, I've got a lot of clear containers, and the primary reason why I use them is plain and simple. It's easier to see what's inside. For the most part, when we store all of our preps, we aren't taking them out of the containers that they're in. Yes, in some cases we do because the container is just too large and it'll save space. But if something is individually wrapped or it's a small package, we tend to keep it inside the original packaging and then put it inside the tub for two primary reasons. One, we do get mice. Doesn't matter how many mouse traps I put out and doesn't matter what I do, mice still find their way in. It's an old house, so it is what it is. So to keep pests out, it's easier for things that are in plastic, in cardboard, things that they can chew through quickly to keep it sealed up. It also helps to keep it protected from the overall environment. Although the basement is climate controlled to the extent that it stays relatively the same temperature, there are times during the year where it can get a little bit humid in here or a little bit damp, and that helps prevent any potential mold and spoilage of any of the food that's in here. When you do store up, I would suggest that if you use clear containers, just keep it simple. You really don't even need to label anything because many of the containers, when we run out of whatever's in it, other times we'll switch out something from one container into another one depending upon what the item is. So instead of putting the label up and then having to change the label or make a new one, you just simply move it from one box to the next box depending upon what you're looking to do. Now, when it comes to canned goods, for the most part, we don't go overboard. We get a little bit more than what we would normally use, but we have a good idea of the type of food when we buy it, how often we go through it. So, just as a general example, a can of baked beans like this, we're not going through that every single week. We're not going through that every single month. So 3, 4, maybe 5 of them at the most is what we'll have. And that is over the course of several months. During the summertime, hot dogs and beans, that sort of thing. But we really limit what we're buying to what we know we use over a certain duration. Even when it comes to tuna fish, we'll have several cans of tuna fish because we do use that more often, but we're not to the rafters on it. We don't have, 128 cans of tuna fish stacked up. And even with that, I'll show you as an example. Down here, there's a few individual serving packets of pouch tuna, which basically is single serving. It's easy, it's portable. Primarily if you're going to make a quick lunch and you're just doing it just for you, it's easier to spend a few dollars and have a few of those on hand. Even though, yes, on a penny per penny basis, canned tuna is going to cost less than the pouch tuna, but we're still buying these in larger amounts when we're making full-size meals or multiple meals from it. Now, some of the basics, sugar, flour, oats, that sort of thing, for the most part, they stay in their original container. I do have a plan to use 5-gallon food buckets. The most effective way that I feel to keep the larger items, even though we don't go through them on a regular basis, just to now save shelf space. And that's primarily what my redesign is going to be about. It's about saving space on the shelf. I'm moving several things out, and that'll clear it up and give me a little more room and flexibility to add more storage containers and some shelving units in it as well. Now, one of the primary things that takes up a lot of space is our water. We've got water on 2 of the lower shelves and going over, as well as several cases stacked off in the corner. I'm going to be relocating those because I intend to add some more to it, but I want to free up the shelving space to move things around, make it a little more accessible, because in many cases we have to pull things off, unstack something, get what we need out, and then restack it. So I want to try to eliminate that process of making it a hassle to get things out from the storage, because also too, if it's inconvenient, at a certain point, you're going to just bypass that and do something else, or you're going to say, okay, it's down there, I don't feel like getting it, we're going to the store anyway, we'll just buy another one and we'll have that one as a backup. And then that one item, whatever it is, stays in the back all the time because it's too inconvenient to get to it. Now, I know in a lot of prepping videos, they always talk about rice and beans, rice and beans. That's all you need. 50-pound bag of rice, 20-pound bag of beans, and you can live forever. To one extent, yes, you can get a certain amount of nutrition from that. You can fill your stomach and you can keep going longer than you could if you're just breathing air and sunshine. But we don't go through a lot of rice. We do eat rice for certain meals, but we're not eating rice on a daily basis. And at the moment, we have no need to stack up 50 pounds plus worth of rice, period. I do plan on buying more rice, and then again, that will go into that 5-gallon bucket. So I'll effectively have a container where one bucket might be for rice, another bucket might be for some other grains. I'll have one for salt, spices, sugar, flour will be in another one, things like that. But they will still be effectively in their original container. I'm not doing the Mylar bag, which the Mylar bags I definitely understand for long-term storage are very effective, but I'm not investing that money right now in getting the bags and getting the equipment needed to properly seal them. I'm going to stick with what has been working, which realistically for me has been Ziploc bags and plastic containers, and that takes care of the problem. We have no issues with food spoilage. We've gotten no issues with any of the mice that have gotten in, because everything now at this point is either in an aluminum can or it's inside plastic, and that's the end of that situation. So as an example, ketchup. We use ketchup regular basis, but we don't go through one of these in a week. We don't go through one of these in 2 weeks. It's maybe about 3 weeks. So when we have 3, maybe 4 at the most, that tends to take us through a large portion of the year. So we don't really have to stock up and stack up on certain condiments because we don't go through them that often. So again, it's all about maximizing what you do use, but still keep it within reason. Now, one of the things that I'm looking to do is we've got a lot of our preps, certain things like gravies and sauces are all in glass jars, and we've got several other things that are in glass containers. My primary issue is it's breakable. So I just simply easy solution. I'm getting a couple of milk crates that will fit within this area, and then I'm going to take the more fragile items, the glass items and jars, and just simply place them in that. It's a milk crate. They're already closed up. You can still see it and you can still get access to it. You can slide it out, pull out the jar that you need and slide it back in. But it makes it easier and it gives me a certain level of peace of mind. Should something happen to the shelving system under certain conditions, I'm less concerned that I'm going to come down and find open glass jars broken all over the floor. Now, real quickly on freeze-dried and dehydrated MRE type of food. My personal view is this, and it's just my personal view. We don't keep those as an immediate meal replacement. It's not a case of, oh, we don't feel like making dinner, so let's just eat the freeze-dried foods and the MREs, that sort of thing. I look at it this way. If a situation evolves where, without question, no more food is going to be available in store shelves, no trucks coming in, no nothing. Whatever you have is what you are stuck with or what you are left with. What you have in your refrigerator and in your kitchen cupboards, most people on average, is about a week to 2 weeks worth of food. And you have to remember, if you're in a situation where you have no power, the stuff in your freezer and the stuff in the refrigerator are going to be spoiling in a relatively short period of time. So you have to basically use that up. So with that being said, we could eat out of our fridge and freezer and the kitchen cabinets and everything for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Then you move into the stuff that's here, which at that point we could stretch out easily for another maybe 3-4 weeks. So we're doing okay. Now, when we get to the end of that period, what's left in the freeze-dried and the dehydrated stuff and those emergency rations, that's at that critical point there, because that still again will bring us out to another week and a half or so. But that's at that point when you know you're getting close to doing that, you need to start thinking of some other way to provide some food, some sustenance to yourself. But again, it's one of those things, because they have a longer shelf life, 10, 15, 25 years, depending upon the difference between the dehydrated and the freeze-dried, but it's a longer shelf life. You don't have to worry about it going bad, especially if it's kept effectively temperature controlled in a cool environment. You're not going to have an issue. So if you do plan on buying that type of food, don't buy it because, one, it is expensive no matter what. to be used as a simply you don't feel like cooking situation, or you're going to be taking a 4-hour road trip someplace, you want to have snacks, that sort of thing. No, that's a definite waste of your resources. What you need is you keep that for when you are down to your last couple cans of tuna fish, when you're down to the last 3 cups worth of flour and sugar, and you have absolutely nothing left, and you know that if you're going to be looking for food, it may take you a few days to scrounge up and scavenge and get things that you can eat. That's what I hold those resources for. So overall, what I plan on doing is, once I've cleared out the water, rearranging some of the shelves, the buckets I've measured out aren't going to fit on the shelf, but the place that I'm going to put them, I can stack them up, have them off to the side, have the water in another location where it's still accessible, but not in the way, freeing up more space on the shelf to then, yes, add more to the supplies that we already have to give us an extra 2 to 3 weeks on top of that. Because the way I look at it is, minimally speaking, I'm comfortable at 3 months. A lot of other channels will tell you you should have a year's supply. Great. I don't have a year's supply worth of space. And right now, we don't have a year's supply worth of money to keep putting into just putting more on the shelf. So we find that balance between our normal grocery shopping and getting a little bit extra. Not of everything all at once. Sometimes it's just a little bit of extra pasta. It might be extra tuna fish. It might be an extra bag of sugar, depending upon what the situation is. Maximizing any, 2-for-1s, buy one, get one, that sort of thing. When we do need to do that, that's how we build up. So we don't build everything all at once. It's still a little bit at a time. This way it's more manageable and you can control it more, and you can keep track of it in a better way. So with that being said, it's things to think about. If you're going to organize a pantry and dedicate it to your preps, you can still integrate that into your normal everyday use. You just want to make sure that you thoroughly understand what you have on the shelf, what you've got up in your cabinets, what you have in your fridge and your freezer, and how long all that's going to go. And it's always easier, to one extent, plan on not having power, plan on not having all of the conveniences you use right now. Because in some cases, you may have to look at certain food items and say, that's going to be a loss, and not waste your time trying to salvage it. Other cases, it may be, okay, take these items out, cook them now, and we're having 3-4 meals a day for the next 3 days until it's gone. And then we work on the stuff, the dried goods, the things like that in the back, and we'll eat it from there. All things to think about. 2024. If you're not prepping right now, I don't know what you're doing. But you need to get started. You need to get organized. And yes, things change all the time. That's not something that's ever going to be different. There's always going to be changes. You need to stay fluid and adapt to those changes, but keep a plan in mind so you always have something that you can act on when those things occur. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll catch you in the next one.